The Bears good.
Yeah, Shay gave me a heads up. That was the discussion. I think you're starting to see some of the foundation of what Ben Johnson's going to look to build there, which is you're building through the lines of scrimmage and you're looking to at least make every game winnable, and that's how they did it in Detroit. And you see that with the investment that they made in the off season. Going and bringing in Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson and Drew Dahlman on the offensive side, Grady Jarrett on the defensive side. And, I think, like what you're seeing now is a team that can start to win some rock fights. And, certainly on Sunday, rushing for over 200 yards and getting a fourth win. I think you saw very much like the way the Bears want to win. And then, I think that the benefit of that is, if you're playing that way, you're creating better score situations, better down and distance situations, which gives you the best environment to grow your quarterback in.
Albert, we keep asking you, and we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. Do you expect a busy trade deadline season? Do you think there are teams like the Steelers need defensive help? They got a chance to win that division. The Bears might need to go get a rush edge. Do you think that there will be a busy trading period?
That's all up to the sellers, and so I think teams will be looking, the question I think is going to become, and this is, to me, always the most important one, is how many teams are willing to signal to their fans that they're giving up on the season. And that's a hard thing, and then you have other teams that, may be willing to do that, but there's, a coach and a general manager who are fighting for their jobs. In other words, like Miami, there are some pieces on the Miami roster you would look at and say, yeah, I'd go and trade for a Jalen Phillips or a Bradley Chubb or someone like that, Minkah Fitzpatrick. But are Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel in position to trade those guys for assets that they may not be able to use, draft picks for next year? The Jets, I would have said that they would be one with a first-year head coach and first-year GM, but they're 0-7 right now. So, if you're teetering a little bit and you're in that position, can you afford to do that? What message is that going to send to your locker room? So that's where I think these things become difficult. Is who is the team that's willing to go on a fire sale? And if you guys look at the history of it, the most interesting one to me was the Commanders, which was, I think, 2 years ago now. Yeah, 2 years ago now. And that was basically orchestrated by the owner. The owner basically told them, we're trading our defensive ends. And that was how the Bears wound up with Montez Sweat. That's how Chase Young wound up getting traded. And, I think, in that case, it was, we need to reset, and we need a hard reset. And the Commanders came out better for it, I would say. But, it's just difficult to find a team that's willing to kind of pull the ripcord that way.
Your thoughts about the Baltimore Ravens? It's one thing to not be very good defensively, but Lamar Jackson being out definitely hurts. What do you think of the state of the Ravens right now?
I mean, they have to get healthy. That's all it is. I mean, I still think it's, when healthy, one of the best rosters in football. I thought coming into the year it might be the best roster in football. When you have 6, 7, 8 of your best players not in the lineup, that's going to affect anybody. When one of those players is a quarterback, makes it even worse. So, yeah, they're 1-5, but if they can come out of their bye and get some guys back, and I know Roquan Smith already said he's playing, and we'll see with Lamar. I think this is a team that is capable of turning it around. Now, they don't have much more margin for error to work with. 1-5 is a deep hole to dig out of. I mean, you can look at the history of it. There aren't very many teams that have. So they don't have much more breathing room, and they can't afford a stumble the way another contender may be able to afford or absorb a stumble. But I still think that players are there, if they're healthy, to turn that thing around.
In terms of what the league is thinking of the Bears, I keep saying to Jonathan, and I think he agrees with me, 4 turnovers or 4 takeaways a game is an unsustainable model for winning football games. You've got to get better play out of the quarterback. What does the league think of the Bears?
We saw with Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
If you guys look, like Jacksonville was the same thing. Jacksonville, I think the first 5 weeks had like 3 turnovers every week. It was the first time they'd ever done that in their franchise's history. And, now it's turned. So that part of it definitely, you can't count on that every week. But I'd say they are doing things, again, Cap, that are sustainable. And, when you're running the ball the way that they're running the ball right now, you got DeAndre Swift playing the way that he's playing. And you have a good defensive front that's going to be able to hold up and get after the passer and stop the run. You're going to be in a lot of games, so, is it sustainable to play the way they've played and to take the ball away the way they've taken the ball away? No. But there are things there where you say, okay, like this part of it is sustainable and this is going to keep us in games. And you'd hope, like to your point, that maybe quarterback play starts to replace the takeaways as the difference maker.
The demise of the Lions is greatly exaggerated, is it not?
I mean, how many? Like, I would, what I think? Maybe this would be a project for me today. I want to go through and find all the stuff people said on like Monday, whatever it was, September 9th.
Yeah.
I whatever that day was. Like, I bet you could find some hilarious stuff. I mean, I just like people don't look beyond like what's right in front of their face. I mean, I looked at that, like Jared Goff, like people. I don't think people properly assess what Jared Goff is, who he's become as a quarterback. He's one of the best quarterbacks in football. Now he's led 2 different franchises to conference championship games, which I can't imagine there are very many guys on the list that have done that, and so you've got that part of it, right? Like where the quarterback's in place and the rest of the roster, like, I don't know that their personnel department, Brad Holmes and those guys have gotten enough credit for the amount of young talent there is in that roster, from Jahmyr Gibbs to Amon-Ra St. Brown to Panay. So some of these guys are in the middle of their career now, so maybe you wouldn't call them young anymore. Aiden Hutchinson, Jack Campbell, like Brian Branch wasn't out there last night, but he's certainly in that category. They've hit on so many draft picks over the last 4 years. It was baffling to me, like how people were looking at this and like having a funeral for them after week 1 because they lost their coordinators, and their coordinators were good. And we're seeing in Chicago now that Ben's a really good coach, but the talent was really good. The head coach is really good. The quarterback's really good. And so I thought like throwing dirt on them after week 1 was really, really dumb to begin with. And it looks even dumber now.
Albert, have a wonderful rest of your week. Bears, Ravens. I would think it's a desperate Ravens club, and this is a great chance for the Bears to take another step.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Be good.